Stand last word, work, we don't play. DMV heat coming straight your way. No visit to the 757, we ride. Rusty Byrd got the bullpen live.
Hey, it's the last word with Rusty Byrd, and I've got the bullpen, and we are going to talk about VHSL Football State Championships. They just happened. We're going to go through classes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Some say that might be too many. We might be able to discuss that a little bit, but I'm blessed to have with me Jeremiah Davis, my co-host, Matt Hatfield, Christion Abrams, and Danny Lewis in the 804. Guys, tell people where they can find you.
Sure. VirginiaPreps.com. It's the Virginia High School Sports Site on the Rivals Network, powered by On3. We have all kinds of premium content, including our group's previews. We did recaps of the games. We'll have rankings to finish up the season. Now that basketball season's here, we'll have a lot of basketball content too, but you can find recruiting stories. We have message boards, all kinds of content up there at Virginia Preps. It's part of the Rivals Network, as I mentioned. And also, I do a podcast as well on Cove Sports TV, which you can find on YouTube, 757 Sports Talk.
Cool. Thanks, Matt. Danny, 804 man.
Yeah, same deal as Matt. Virginia Preps on 3 Rivals Network. You can find my content there. You can find a lot of stuff on Twitter. I'm always tweeting out facts and updates and such. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Yeah, they put out a lot of great stuff. I'm getting stuff all the time, and I'm enjoying it. Really good content, guys. Coach CA.
Yeah, you can find me on 540 Athletes on Twitter. Everything Fredericksburg area. Try my best to keep it updated. A lot of times I'll post, especially during the football season, week-to-week rankings. We've at this point gotten over to about 2,000 followers, so trying to keep that growing.
And my co-host, Jeremiah Davis. What's up, Coach Davis?
Hey, you can find me next to Rusty Byrd if you need to find me. Or now it's basketball season. At some basketball court, we're going to have 3 on the court. Online, Jeremiah D86, Coach Davis 86. That 86 is for that Penn State right there, not the year I was born. Because I'm an 82 baby, all right? I'm going to claim all these grades.
Yeah, right. Good stuff. Yeah, I tell you, you guys have been great. These last couple of weeks. I love what we've been able to do with football. We'll start it earlier in the year next year, but this has been a lot of fun. So I just want to, before we wrap any of this up, I just want to tell you how much I really appreciate you all for doing the show. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, we'll start with Class 1, where we had a matchup of Rye Cove that was 11-3 playing Rappahannock 11-2. And these teams are very far apart on the state map, and we had a great game and a outcome where I want to say we all picked Rappahannock. But if you watch the episode, there was a little change in somebody's pick.
I'm gonna own it. I'm gonna own it.
Somebody said Rye Cove, but and if you look at it, we all went Rappahannock before the final game, before the game was played.
I did. I called him right after the show, and I said I misspoke. I said I'm going Rappahannock, and why I went Rappahannock is because we're gonna claim them in Northern Virginia. You know, you can hit 66, hit Skyline, and go a little south. Right.
That's right.
So go a little south, you can get to Rappahannock. So we're gonna claim them because they got a dub. So
there we go. All right. Hey, Matt. So everybody's going to claim them now. They actually, that school's area code is 804. So I'm sure 804 is going to claim it too. But sure. Christion, you could claim it because I actually thought that was a 5-4.
Right. It's right down. Like I said, I drive across the Rappahannock Bridge every day. Rappahannock River every day. So I'm claiming it.
And Matt, that's not far from you too.
Somewhat. I mean, it's kind of in that middle of, I wouldn't say nowhere, but it's, that northern neck area where it attaches to a lot of different area codes. Yeah. So technically it's an 804 area code, but my goodness, they had a heck of a second half in their game against Rye Cove. That combination of CJ Kelly, the quarterback, and the running back, Kenneth Madison, who had 19 carries for 224 yards and 4 touchdowns, and the quarterback, CJ Kelly, had 192 yards rushing, a couple of scores, and threw for nearly 100 yards in the score. They were just too dynamic for Rye Cove. Had a heck of a year, but there's 2 speedsters, two really terrific athletes that could maybe do some damage at the higher levels, potentially. Those two were just overpowering for Rye Cove.
Was returning from James Madison, and I saw that Strasburg sign, and I was driving by. I was like, "Thanks, guys. Y'all helped me go 3-3 on the weekend. I needed that."
Shout out to the hey, I told y'all, man, one of the best snack stands in high school at Strasburg High School. I'm telling you, y'all get a chance to make it out there. Check them out.
Yeah. So I appreciate that, y'all. I really do. Class 3. Now this was probably the best game of the weekend. I mean, double overtime. Just an exciting game. A lot going on here. Danny, you were there. You want to start out?
Yeah, it Lake Taylor, got out to a 12-0 lead early. Seemed like, here we go, Kettle Run. They get to the big game and they just can't play with the guys at that level. But they came back, they had a 21-20 lead at the half, kind of took me by surprise. It's like, oh, okay, now here they come. Lake Taylor had some fumbles. The stat line says it's 2 fumbles. I counted 3. They only lost one of them. That comes up big when you're talking about a overtime win. Big thing here is, I hate to pin it on one thing because, like Coach Sawyer said, like the coach for Kettle Run said, you can't pin it on just one thing. It's going to be a mirage of things, this and then this and this and just dominoes falling. But, the kicking game for both teams kind of played a role. Lake Taylor had an early miss on a PAT. They started going for 2-point conversions each time. Got some, didn't get some. Kettle Run connected on all their PATs except for one. Thus, we have a 34-34 tie at regulation.
Yep.
Late stages, very late stages, seconds left in regulation. Kettle Run has the ball. I think it was crazy. It was like third and 30 at the 50-yard line because they had been pushed back by penalties. And they somehow get all the way down, thanks to a pass interference call, mind you, get all the way in position to try for a 38-yard field goal. No time on the clock, untimed down, and they miss it. So you've got 2 chances to win the state championship with a PAT, with a field goal, and you come up empty. And then in overtime, it's just who's gonna shine. Lake Taylor, they shined. Kettle Run, second overtime, couldn't find the end zone. Lake Taylor, second overtime, right to the end zone.
Yeah.
What was it? Keon Johnson. Keon Johnson had a big game. Nobody had a bigger game than Kevin Adams, 123 yards on the ground. He had the most yards of anybody for Lake Taylor or for even Kettle Run. Dylan Tapscott had 238 passing yards for Kettle Run. That's where Kettle Run had their strides, was in the passing game. Lake Taylor was running the ball pretty much the entire game.
Yeah, number 11, that receiver number 11 too came up huge for Kettle Run.
Dak Ross.
Catching those passes, and it was and we were watching actually on our way back. We didn't know who to cheer for. I like y'all heard me on the show before say I like split back veer. If I had to get back in the saddle again, but then again, this is my first time watching them play live. Then they go 4 wide, and it was like, oh, hold on, you're split back veer team. What are you doing? What are you doing, like Taylor? They go 4 wide, but I forget, was it the first overtime or the second overtime? Both teams had like a fumble that took them all the way back. And then was that the first overtime or the second overtime?
That was the second.
That was the second, right? Because that's the one that knocked Kettle Run out of range. And then the Titans messed around and the ball goes backwards too. And they have to throw to get out of that situation. Which is funny because again, it's who made the last adjustment, who was able to do something that they normally hadn't done, and make a play to win the game. I think both of those teams played like super hard. Again, being there, seeing those guys come in, at the stadium exchange, we shared the locker room with the Lake Taylor side, and those kids were ready to roll. And I know some folks from Kettle run pretty well, and those they were fired up and they were ready to go, and they had been there before. And both of these teams got some young kids on them that can go. Tapscott he's got some years left, but he can, you know what I mean? He's going to be a star, coming down the pike. But it was great to see two teams, with kids going both ways in the same, it was the even matchup that you would see, right? It was the two teams in the even matchup that should be there in the same struggle, you know what I'm saying? Battle it out. And it was, and you could tell it was nothing but love and respect after the game. It got cold too. For y'all that stayed out at like the later game, it got cold. Like it was cold in the morning. It got okay, but it wasn't sweater weather, at the end of that thing. And then it started to get long. One of the things that people don't know, when you're traveling like you're playing that second game, whether you come down that day, that they changed the times now for the games, right? 11:30 is the early one, 5 is the late one. Well, let's just say like Lake Taylor, they stayed overnight. They had to be out of the hotel at 1 o'clock. You know what I mean? For you to pay another night. So they sitting at Liberty at 2 o'clock, sitting. You know what I mean? With 3 hours till kickoff. And so it was a long day for both of those teams, man. But that was a great game by both of those guys, man. That was awesome for Virginia football.
Yeah.
You got to feel bad for Kettle Run, though. I mean, they've been there 3 times now. You go to double overtime, you're that close. I know Colton Lubby, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. He was just devastated. He, in his post-game presser, I mean, he looked down a lot. I mean, some losses hurt more than others, and you could tell it hurt to be that close.
Matt, are you back in good graces with Lake Taylor's coach and wife?
Yeah, I am. Sandra and Hank Sawyer. By the way, he now matches his wife with 4 rings. She's got 4 as the girls' basketball coach. He's got 4 as the football coach. And Danny will have play more in this game. He documented it pretty well for us. Look, I mean, they were 3-7 last year. It was a remarkable story, whoever won this game, with what Kettle Run went through, its off-season situation, uncertainty. And I got a chance to do an interview last week with both the Lubby brothers that he mentioned. Colton being one of them. The other one is coming back. Colton's a senior, so that was his last chance and last ride. So I know it's really heartbreaking for him. And he was a defensive player of the year in the region there. But Delmar Christion, the interim coach, I don't think he's interim anymore. He's done enough to earn that job. There's no doubt about it. But the thing, and Danny can correct me if I'm wrong, I think, was it an option? I haven't gone back and watched the full replay. Was it an option pitch that Kettle Run had on the fumble that brought him back to set up the fourth down play in the second OT?
Yes.
I wonder if they're wanting that back. I mean, Dyson Tapscott, as Jeremiah mentioned, what an incredible young man. Sophomore, going from wide receiver to quarterback. He threw for, you got the numbers, Danny, I know you said to me, well over 200 yards and 5 touchdowns in this game. The Lake Taylor defense does bring relentless pressure, had a couple of picks, but that was just that one play. And then Lake Taylor goes backwards. And think about this, guys. Last week, they win it on a 27-yard touchdown pass on the final play, Kevin Adams to Majerald Clark. This week, in double overtime, they win it on 2nd and goal on a 26-yard touchdown pass from Kevin Adams to the tight end and Kassan Hessen. So this team, known for its veer, its running game, for years and years and years, Hank Sawyer was not a guy that would go throw the ball. But since he's won his state championships, they've had very capable quarterbacks, from Delman Williams to Shaheem Johnson, and now Kevin Adams. They've done it with guys that can make some plays through the air. And I think that's how their program has evolved. And they've adapted and withstood the test of time to now win 4 championships in a 14-year period in 3 different classifications, by the way, guys. They've won it in Class 5 over Stonebridge. They've won it in Class 4 over Tuscarora and Salem. And they now won it in Class 3. So there are a few programs that have done that now. We're seeing it now happen to win it in different class levels. Certainly Phoebus comes to mind, Varina comes to mind, Richmond. But I think it's remarkable for them to have this with maybe the longest tenured coach in the state, who people said needed to give it up.
Yeah, he echoed that sentiment in the post-game presser. He said people were talking last year at this time that it was time to retire, that even their peers, the kids, friends in the halls were telling them, y'all aren't any good anymore. Proved them wrong.
So let's move to Class 2. Class 2. Now, this is the one I wanted to talk about because in Class 2, we had Glenvar against Strasburg. Glenvar was the last remaining undefeated team in the state of Virginia. And that went into actually part of what I was talking about in making my selection. If I'm not mistaken, there's a certain Rusty and Jeremiah that I know that actually picked Strasburg to win, while two folks on this panel picked an undefeated Glenvar. I'll let Matt go ahead and tell us how an undefeated team took that L.
Well, and look, it was looking like we were going to end up being on the right side of things. They were up 12-0 with the all-time touchdown best record holder and Brady Doyot, Birdie Doyot, excuse me, getting them out to a nice start with that 12-0 lead. But this game was one in the trenches. That offensive line and that straight T formation that Strasburg runs just was too much for Glenvar. And ultimately, Glenvar's defensive front could not deal with the running game. Three different guys running the ball for Strasburg. Quincy Williams, who's a junior who will be back, Lincoln Bosworth, and Brady Knight. That trio alone ended up helping them rush for 362 yards on 58 attempts. They attempted one pass, had no completions. And early on, Strasburg had a couple of fumbles, didn't cough it up again. 2 interceptions for the Strasburg defense helped turn the tide. They got a scoop and score from Williams in the third quarter. So it was actually a close game. It was 21-19 at the half. But when Strasburg scores the first 41 points in the third quarter, boom, 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 that was all she wrote. And Glenvar just could not catch up. And it's the first time, guys, we put out the nugget. Got it from a good friend of ours. He's now an AD. Mike Whittington passed it on to me yesterday. It's the first time since 1979 there's not a single undefeated state champion in Virginia High School League football. That year, you got to go back to, it was Perry McClure, Petersburg, and Southampton winning championships. And there was 3 classifications then. This year, 6 classifications, no unbeatens. Pretty remarkable.
At that time, I was in the press box watching Maury in Highland Springs, but I was glued to my phone, watching this game, and it just was a great game.
A couple of Lake Taylor Titan alums are on the Maury coaching staff. Mike Privet, the defensive coordinator for Maury, Glade linebacker for Coach Sawyer, and then Wayne Davis, defensive backs coach, who won the Gatorade Player of the Year. I think it was 2013, 14, somewhere there, right around Lake Taylor's second championship.
Wow.
He went on to play at Ohio State and then James Madison University. He actually put up a funny video where he goes into James Madison's coach's office. I think it was DB coach Eddie Whitley's office, and raids the board and writes on the board, which is funny. But they were delighted to get their rings from Maury, but also see their alma mater win a championship. So as I was going on the field yesterday in Harrisonburg, a lot of them were wondering, what's the final? Because the game was in overtime. People were waiting to see what happened. It was because the suspense of, and it was going to be heartbreaking, like Danny mentioned. Whoever lost that game, it was going to be gut-wrenching.
No doubt. Danny, you were also there for Class 4. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
There's not much to tell. It was one of the more dominating.
Be easy now. Not hey, be easy.
I am.
Be easy, man.
No, I am. It was just.
I'm gonna go to you, Jeremiah.
I don't recall. I mean, I've been with Virginia Preps, for I think this is my 13th year. Been a fan of high school football a lot longer. I don't remember a game quite like this. Varina, did what they were expected to do from, July and August when preseason was kicking up and everybody, Matt Hatfield knows this. He put them ahead of Phoebus in the preseason Class 4 top 10. They played like a champion yesterday, and it was a dominating effort. And, Loudoun played their hearts out. I felt bad for them from the fact that they're out there, just battling. And, they still didn't have much to show for. They didn't get the first down until there was 4 minutes in the second quarter. I mean, it was just that offensive line, which I know is good, was just overmatched by Varina's front seven. And I'll let Jeremiah speak on it. He on the sidelines, he knows a little bit more, but that's my perspective from, the press box. It was just an all-out dominating effort. I mean, not that pile on, but 600 yards of offense to 54 yards of offense kind of speaks for itself.
And I'll go ahead and give and just give some perspective. Danny's a Varina graduate.
Yeah, you could tell. You could tell he couldn't hold himself back. As
I know.
Listen, man. I'm
Danny, you
there.
should have started with that.
He couldn't. He sat there, listened to me in the pre-show.
Other teams.
In the pre-show, he listened to me. He's like, "Listen, I get it. You could tell. Right. Hey, big ups to them, man. Like I said, and again, I've been down there. I've run clinics. I've run multiple clinics when some of these guys were youth coaches, and now they're. I remember working with some of these kids when they were kids. Working with E2E, Michael Robinson, his brothers. And so I've seen it kind of come up. I know what he did for that community with E2E, bridging the city and bridging the, you know what I'm saying, Rye Cove County together. And so I seen it coming from a mile away, on West Stern on the east end, which goes for what they're doing and what Highland Springs, who you're going to talk about in a little bit, kind of what they put together. This was a total. It was class 4, but we weren't working with the same ingredients. You know what I'm saying? It was not that one. Highlights of it, right? Let's talk about. I'll talk about some of ours. We did not give up a sack. Loudoun County did not give up a sack. We also didn't get a sack. We had, I think. Matt has the stats for us in the year. I think we're a 25 plus sack team. And we didn't get any either. We pride ourselves in playing some good defense up front, but they got 4 defensive linemen that all can actually get after it, like really get after it, right? And so that was one of the things that was noticed, because we did have to pass a lot more than we thought we would, or coming into the game, and being behind so early. And then the uncharacteristic turnover to start a game. I know we got held to field goal on the stop. We held them to turnover on the first one, which is probably our best positive thing that we had going on. But big ups to those guys, man, from the beginning to the end. The enthusiasm, that nothing great is accomplished without enthusiasm, right? And they bring the juice when they come on. One of the things that you can tell is evident by the program and the pride that Danny has in it too. They were coming into this year to win a state championship. After what happened last year, they put a schedule together. They put a team together that says, "Hey, we're going to dominate those who come in front of us." They played up during the year, and that motive came into it. But about the captains, man, 75 years of the history of the school. Now, this never happened. This is the best football team to ever. We talked about this. This is the best football team to ever come through the halls of that school. And not a lot of people can say that. You know what I mean? Not a lot of people can say that, right? This is the best football team to ever come through the halls of their school. I have a son on that team. He's one of the best football players to ever be at that school. This is a tradition that's starting. Hopefully one day they get to the level where they're competing regularly on this stage. But we were going to be excited with the moment, with the year that we had, being a regional champs. Never happened in the history of the school. This is our first loss, Loudoun County's first loss in the state of Virginia. We have one loss in the state of Virginia. We lost in West Virginia in a double overtime thriller, and and went down to the nail biting. But this was our first loss in the state of Virginia. We don't choose our schedule. We did not. We get a point. We take who we got. We actually had to play in West Virginia. Little note, and we'll put that out there. And this is fact. We actually put on it because somebody on our schedule, Doug Smoke, said they didn't want players, so we had to go out of state to find a game.
Wow.
So we one comment that and I kind of addressed it. One comment that's like kind of sat with me because I'm not that kind of guy, and I didn't raise it. It's like, they probably wouldn't want to play Varina again. No, the comment was iron sharpens iron, so let's get better. No, there will be no ducking of smoke for the county captains or in the Davis household. So you know what I mean? So we'll play you again, and we might get a touchdown this next time, or we might not. They might throw up 80 if they keep the starters in. But with the attitude of respect, of humility, now we're gonna come and get better. You know what I mean? And all of our kids, at the end of the day, we are working with 16, 17, 18-year-old young men who are going to go all accomplish things greater than football. And I hope for those guys that over there, that success that they experience for their community, that sense of pride winning their second state championship, that carries on and continues the tradition of that. And the same thing I hope for our kids, that they persevere through trials and tribulations, and that brings them some success also.
And
Absolutely.
a couple of notes too. Third quarter, Varina lost quarterback Caleb Weiss again in a state championship game at Liberty, which is just the craziest thing because they lost him last year against Phoebus. Didn't look too serious. I'm sure the fact that the game wasn't in doubt probably played a role as to why he didn't return. And I talked to Coach Riddenbaugh following the game, and he was very complimentary of Varina. He didn't hold back. He said Varina is the best team in the state. I mean, I think that speaks volumes to Varina. And I asked Coach Riddenbaugh about, Loudoun going forward, and he's very optimistic about the program moving forward. And, this is kind of a building block, I guess you could say.
In another 3 years, there's another Davis coming.
Yeah, we got another one coming down the pipe. So, you know what I mean?
Yep.
We don't duck smoke.
That's right. Now, to your point, Jeremiah, the top 4 classes, class 4, 5, and 6, okay? Until yesterday for you all, Jeremiah, your only loss was out of state. Maury's only loss was a team from North Carolina, and Oscar Smith's only loss was to a team in Maryland. Danny said something about Varina maybe being the best team in the state, but I'm sure the people from Maury would say, yeah, but we beat you.
It's just, complete domination. Very impressive by Varina. I think they it's hard to say that they're the best team in the state with the loss to Maury already there, but it was a 1-point game. It would have been great to see if they could have played again. I know that much because those are 2 loaded teams. It'd have been great to see both of those 2 teams play Oscar Smith. Those are all 3 just completely loaded teams. So yeah.
Yep. Matt.
Yeah, I think all 3 of those teams, Varina, Maury, Oscar Smith, we had preseason number 1 at each classification. We had Lake Taylor 9th. We had Strasburg 7th, and that was coming off at state rep appearance. We thought class 2 just had so much depth with the Glenvars, the Grahams, the Unions, the TJ of Armstrong, those talented teams across the board that are athletic from Richmond, and then also the powerful teams from Southwest. And in class 1, we had Rappahannock 4th. But I think the themes and parallels are there. Similar to what we get to in the Class 6 game, North Stafford's first time on that stage, it showed against an experienced Oscar Smith team. Loudoun County's first time on that stage. It'll do those kids that are coming back well. Varina's been there before. And there was a lot of message board social media talk weeks ago that I addressed. People were trying to say, is this Varina defense? It's an all-time defense. And I said, let's see them finish the deal before they join that conversation. With the performance they had on Saturday, and Danny outlined it statistically, to do what they did in this playoff run, play high-powered offenses like the Huguenots and Dinwiddie, who they shut down in the region semifinals. Folks, forget about that. I know they didn't have Harry Dalton this year, but that was a high-running machine all year. To do what they did in the championship round now puts them in those conversations with the schedule they played. They had to finish it off this type of way to join some of the elite of the elites. And I know they have a couple of blemishes that will keep them from maybe those conversations being adequate with like the 96 Crappers, the 2008 Phantoms. That's fine. I'm not putting them on that level, but this was a team that was on a mission to cement its status, and they did that. And I think, sort of like we touched on, guys, playing some of those teams, it goes back to that stat we had earlier of no unbeatens, that gets you ready for these moments. I think it's helped those teams either reach the championship or finish the deal, whether it be a Varina, whether it be a Maury, whether it be an Oscar Smith, or even in the case of programs that are building to get there, like a Loco. I think it helps them to get on this stage, and now you see what it's like against this caliber, because there are levels to this. And right now, the 3 that won it in the 4, 5, and 6 ranges, I mean, that's people want to see those in a battle royale, because Maury did win the head-to-head matchup. If they played 10 times, I told people earlier, if Maury Oscar Smith played 10 times, Maury Varina played 10 times, you can't convince me they don't go 5-5 against each other, because I think it's that razor close with those 3 teams.
Yeah. I totally agree. Let's move on to Class 5, and Matt, we'll let you start because you called the 5 and 6 games for VHSL in the National High School Network. So you want to tell us about those 2?
Yeah, Maury jumped out 19-0, not even 6 minutes in against Highland
Yep.
Springs. Boom, boom, boom. And a couple of touchdowns from junior Matt Williams, who I said on the broadcast got the best first name in the state. He's put his name out there as a player in the state conversation. Had a 74-yard kickoff return to start things off, and then a 64-yard touchdown catch from the sophomore quarterback, Damo Everett, a little bit later. It took Highland Springs a while to settle in. They came in dinged up. Calf injury for Eric Byrd. Afterwards, in the post-game presser, I didn't even know this, but Lauren Johnson, who's one of the legends in this thing, mentioned that all year, every one of their starting linebackers had some type of injury. But I also I marvel at their ability to keep this thing competitive. They just didn't have the offensive juice. You saw it, Rusty, to throw the ball
Yeah.
vertically. You know, Antoine Buddy Richardson had a great year to be offensive and defensive player of the year in the region, but he gets hurt in this game with the shoulder. He comes back, gets them their lone touchdown in the fourth quarter early, but they had chances. They moved the ball, and then Maury's defense had a bend but don't break type of game.
Yeah.
And Doree McCain's offense came up with the timely plays when they needed them. They answered the score that Highland Springs had with a score and a really nice drive. 4 plays, 80 yards in a minute. Finish it off with Javante Hughes, one of their linebackers, running in for a touchdown. And Maury does this, guys, with literally having graduated about 9 Division One all-state players from a year ago, 4 or 5 or 6 that went to Power 5 schools, and they bring back a huge chunk of this talent for next year. And it felt like a little bit of a passing of the torch. Now, people have made a lot about it. You saw it, Rusty, at the game ended, and I asked this in the post-game presser. Really long exchange at the end of the game with Lauren Johnson and Doree McCain. And we asked Lauren what he said to Doree. He wasn't sure exactly, but it was in line with some things about the NCAA, doesn't allow for growth for coaches. But it felt like this is the dean of coaches, maybe passing the torch now in some respects to the guy who's now got the top flight program that's now won 3 in a row, who's now got a 41-game winning streak in Virginia, who now has a program that can be doing this year after year after year, which is what Highland Springs was doing. So it felt that way. And this was just a year where Highland Springs didn't have Denny Seaman before. They've had a Greg Dortch or a Kayvon Wallace. They didn't have that one game changer at wide receiver. Maury seems to have 4 or 5 of those guys. Even if this is a year where they don't have that guy going to Indiana like LeBron Bond, they have a bunch of guys that are FCS, lower tier, and FBS guys like a Javon Wiggins going to William & Mary, a Damon McDaniel Jr. going to North Carolina Central, Elijah Moss Williams going to James Madison. So they just find different wrinkles, but good luck stopping them in the future because their quarterback's a sophomore, their running back's a junior, and they bring back a lot of guys that start on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. And they did this with their leading tackler out the last 2 games, and Ike Simmons going to Pittsburgh. Kid who's filling his spot gets 14 tackles in the lineup, Elijah King. I mean, so that's what's neat about Championship Saturday. You uncover players and heroes. This kid comes in, hadn't started in 14 tackles in a big game like this against the Highland Springs running game. So I think it's a credit to both programs. Highland Springs wasn't going to get blown away. They fought back, maybe a little bit limited athletically compared to some past teams. And Maury found a way to not let it get dicey and show that championship resolve.
Yeah. I interviewed Elijah King after the game, and he gave great perspective. He said, if you had told me in the beginning of the year that I would be starting in the state championship game, I never would have believed it. And I was like, you realize you had double-digit tackles in the state championship, and you were, if you didn't make the tackle, he was there. Mm-hmm. Like he was there, like within feet or inches of every play if he didn't make the tackle. And I told him I thought he played a tremendous game. I also interviewed Coach McCain, and one of the things he said was there was value in the loss they had to the team from North Carolina, and there was value in playing close games like the Varina game, and so taking that tougher schedule and going through the things they've been to. And he was, and people thinking this would be a down year. He was very proud of this particular team. Coach Abrams, I'll let you. Did you get a chance to watch this game live?
I watched a little bit of this game. I was definitely again impressed by Maury right out of the gate, taking a 19-0 lead, just like that. Again, just one of those 4, 5, 6 teams, all very impressive yesterday.
And Danny, you're from the 804. You've seen this Highland Springs team. I know you were in Lynchburg yesterday, but thoughts on Highland Springs season?
Yeah, Hatfield summed it up. They have athleticism, but the big difference is I don't think this team had the depth. that we're used to from Highland Springs teams. You know, he talked about Dortch and Wallace, and those Varina teams that are Highland Springs teams that won 4 in a row. They were just stacked with wide receivers, backs who could just step up when somebody wasn't performing. And I just don't think Highland Springs had that this year. They were good, don't get me wrong, and they were in just about every game they played. They don't have that depth we're accustomed to.
Yeah.
It's funny he brought that up because I was going to say that about Varina too. Is that they have tremendous depth. Like I mean, they put in backups and it wasn't a drop off. It wasn't a drop off, and so that was one thing that was very noticeable as you go up in levels. And again, from my time in Westfield, where we got first, second, third in the JV or developmental squad as we had. You know what I mean? And so, that is one of the things that does to that depth, man. And those guys that get to this week, get a season and a half of practice. So all of those young guys, those freshmen, those JV guys that you keep out, that's a season and a half of preparation that those guys get.
Yeah, 5 weeks. 5 weeks. If you made it to yesterday, it was 5 extra weeks. That's right. Yeah. So let's move on to Class 6. And Coach Abrams, we'll let you go second, but since Matt was calling this game, you want to give us, and I was there, but we'll let Matt start us out.
Yeah, Oscar Smith and North Stafford, and we knew going in that the problem that North Stafford might have was you don't have Kenna Sullivan, and how do you match up with Travis Johnson? And going back to what Coach Davis and Danny talked about with the depth, Highland Springs had a guy and Ronnie Hicks step up out of nowhere, run for 100 yards. He had less than that all year long, but they're accustomed to having Eric Byrd and Jonathan Carter to go with Buddy Richardson, so it's one less option in the ground game. North Stafford, when you miss a guy like Sullivan, it's a 3-phase factor. Return game, offensively, a pass catcher for Chase Sullivan, the quarterback, and defensively, now you have to deal with Travis Johnson, Quality Price, who's very fast, and Trey McGlown and Oscar Smith. Their depth wears you down from the standpoint of the offensive and defensive line. Everybody has commented all year long just how big they are up front. They're huge. And oh, by the way, you wouldn't know it, but one of the starting offensive linemen for Smith didn't even play. He was out with an injury. So, but they have those huge guys from Dreen Wallace to Davion Martin to Dorian Lewis. They have guys that just are massive up front. AJ Morgan, those guards pull well. They mash you up front in the running game, and they have the ability. I really thought they set the tone with the rushing attack. And Tajay Curtis, a kid who was out to end the season, he helped get them started off with the running attack as they were able to just kind of pound away early on at North Stafford. He runs for 108 yards and a couple of scores. And Lonnie Andrews III, it was sort of a quiet ho-hum, 138 yards passing and 3 touchdowns because the Smith defense to pitch a shutout in the championship round hadn't been done in Class 6 since 2002 when C.D. Hilton blanked Oakton 6-0. And it was the largest margin of victory in the history of Division 6 or Class 6 championship. I know some will say, oh, North Stafford didn't get there. There's a lot of things that are being said that I feel is maybe not right to North Stafford and Loudoun County, but people have to realize who they played in Varina and Oscar Smith, who just are at a different level in this thing. And it showed. I thought Sullivan had some success in this game, the quarterback moving the ball, but Smith had a bend but don't break philosophy on defense. And so many guys, I think their defensive backfield, fellas, is what really jumped out at me. The guys back there, Jaden Koval, number 7, who's going to UVA, and Brandon Church and Xavier Gibson, and all those guys on the back end, even the big, lanky 6'5 safety who's a junior coming back next year, Dante Dent, he's playing center field. So it's hard to take shots over the middle when you've got a guy, you want to run his post slant patterns, 6'5 rangy safety who can make a play out there. I think it minimized some of the things Orange Stafford was trying to do. Couldn't get the running game going, and Smith just really feasted with their size and their depth.
Yeah. Coach Abrams?
Oh, yeah. Definitely main takeaway is it was really just obviously the trenches tells the story of this game. It was a matter of Oscar Smith. I said at some point it seemed like Oscar Smith outweighed North Stafford at every position by about 15 to 30 pounds. That's just how it and when you have that advantage, they just were able to lean on them. They didn't do anything complicated. There was nothing. They didn't have to do anything flashy. It was a matter of hand the ball off defensively, and like Hatfield said, they applied bend but don't break. They got to chase in the moments that it mattered, and it just kind of overwhelmed North Stafford. North Stafford, again, this is their first time being at this stage in over 20 years, since 2004. So they have a lot to be proud of. But it shows that there's levels to this, that there's a long way for, not just North Stafford, but a lot of teams in this area to kind of go to kind of compete on that level right now.
And to that point, if you think about it, people would say, again, a Madison team that had 4 losses going into the semifinals finishes the year with 5 losses. They only lost by 6 to the same Oscar Smith team. When you talk about experience, you're talking about a Madison team that has routinely been in the state semis and finals the last couple of years. And that experience makes a difference. It makes a difference. And that shows. I think some people would think if Madison was playing North Stafford, many people would believe that North Stafford would beat Madison, but and the game might not have gone that way. I think there's just a lot to that. Now, I wanted to point out, and I'll let you two guys go, but when it comes to Oscar Smith, and there was I was providing posts on the Hampton Roads High School football page during the game, and then once it was over, people was like, "Oh, Rusty, you picked North Stafford to win," and then somebody spoke up and said he said yes, but he said Oscar Smith should win, and they should have, based on their season and the talent they have. But you just never know sometimes. So congratulations to Oscar Smith, a tremendous season. After we finish this, we'll kind of wrap up on, okay, who is the best team? Or who are the best teams, the top teams this year? But Oscar Smith, a tremendous season. I think having played that Madison game helped refocus an Oscar Smith team that hadn't lost for 15 weeks. So again, congratulations. But again, whether it's North Stafford, Loudoun County, or if it's Kettle Run that lost, in overtime, in double overtime, tremendous seasons. I know it hurts. Glenvar, I know it hurts. But when some time goes by and you're able to reflect, you guys all did great. You had wonderful seasons.
We were traveling back during that game, and we were flipping between the two games, and and just like Christion said, we said there's levels to it, and there's an experience factor of this is how this is going to go, right? You know what I mean? Well, this is how we're going to adjust to that. But I'll say this, and then we'll move on to the next thing. Like, for the teams to get to this point, and I think Hatfield touched on this a little bit, you got to push through injuries. You know what I mean? This is a long time. This is a long time. And you got to think about the young kids that are doing this. These sophomores, 10th graders have never played football this long. Freshmen that you got out, definitely never been out there this long. You know what I mean? And so, but they definitely got something special going down there, the Tigers do.
Yeah. So next I want to go, like, if we can just quickly go back, and then we'll talk about top overall teams. Of the teams that won or the teams that were runner-ups, how do we go in Class 1? Matt, do you think Rappahannock has an opportunity to repeat?
It's going to be hard. 18 seniors graduate, including that backfield combination of Madison and Kelly. CJ Kelly at quarterback, and Kenneth Madison at running back. Those two guys graduating is going to be tough to replace those guys. There could be some other coaching changes in Class 1, so I'm curious to see what other schools will be in the picture. Eastside, who didn't get there. We had Eastside preseason number 2. They returned their entire team. They had no seniors, and they lost to Rye Cove in the region championship, 32-12, had 4 turnovers in that game. But they bring back Keller and Hamilton. They'll probably start out number 1 in the state next year in Class 1. They beat Rye Cove during the season, lost to them for the second straight year in the region final. So they're probably going to be the favorite going in next year. Rappahannock still has to deal with Essex again in their district and region. But it was great stories. You had sort of mini Cinderellas. There were 3 seeds coming out of the regions that got to the state championship game. So I wouldn't put it past Rappahannock, but I'd say going in next year, the favorite's going to be Eastside.
Okay. All right. Cool. And then what about Class 2, Strasburg and Glenvar?
Glenvar, you've got to replace Brody Doyat. All-time touchdown pass record holder going to Charlotte. It's hard to deal with because he also plays defense for them. Kevin
right.
Clifford's a veteran at this thing, so I think he'll have a great program. So even if they do have a step back, that step back is probably 7 or 8 wins at the minimum. They're going to be good. Graham's always good out there. And in Strasburg's case, 17 seniors graduate. They do bring back their leading rusher who ran for right around 2,000 yards in Quincy Williams. He's a two-way stud. And I think Triple M has a program. Guys, if you watch Strasburg play or you go back and watch them, they have some elements that are similar to Riverheads, who won all those championships in a row in Class 1. I'm not saying that Strasburg now wins 7 or 8 in a row in Class 2, but I think they're here to stay as being in the mix. So remains to be seen if they'll be the favorite going into Class 2 next year, but I certainly think they have a chance. And then you can't rule out Picosin, who brings back Carter Jones, one of the best linemen in the country, the athletic teams like TJ and Armstrong and Richmond. So I think Class 2 will be interesting. Wouldn't say there's a definite favorite right now in Class 2 next year.
Okay. Class 3 now. Coach Sawyer. Does he have another one?
Well, he graduates 13 seniors. He does have to replace some key guys from that team that helped them win his 4th ring. Names that we touched on, Danny saw in person, on Saturday with Madrigal Clark and Hassan Hesson, Jeremiah Farabee, Keon Johnson. But he also told me, he said, people say, is this it for me? Am I going to retire? I got 16 freshmen in the program. I'm excited about the next 3-4 years. So he doesn't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. And by the way, his wife's girls basketball team has a lot of good youngsters as well. So they plan on being around for the next 3-4 years, which is good to see. I mean, I know he's 67 years of age, but he loves doing it and he's making an impact on lives, which is what this is about for coaches. They had a great year to go from 3-7. I don't know if I would label them as the favorite, but they're going to be heard from and in the conversation. You're going to go through them to win it. That is for sure in Class 3. Certainly, Kettle Run returns Tapscott, but have to replace a lot of multiple 3-year starters, key guys across the board. So I'm fascinated to see how that plays out. And Class 3 is going to be interesting to watch. Liberty Christian, who fell just short in the state semis, they'll bring back that quarterback in Luke Gaither, and they are a private school. And I'm not going to make any statements out there, but there tend to be players that sometimes pop up there that were not on the team the year before. So keep an eye on LCA. Frank Rocco is a great coach. They have a nice program. I wouldn't be surprised if they're back in the hunt and have a chance to be in the championship game at LU.
Coach Davis, what are your thoughts on Class 4?
Well,
for next year.
I think I mean Varina's at the top. I mean, and they're going to be that way for a while. Like, I mean, again, we talked about their depth. Their use. I talk about G5 or B5. They call him this little Michael Robinson's son. Man, he's sophomore on that team and killing it, right? So they're going to be, they're going to have it rolling for a bit. And then it gets in the mix. I mean, one of the things that's going to play into this is the new rules that are going to go in effect, for 2026, as far as having to go to that feeder middle school. You know what I mean? And so at schools at this population level, you're going to need. I mean, not to get technical about it, but you got to have a certain amount of boys that can play. You know what I mean? That's going to get it done for football. You know what I mean? And so I think that's gonna go into it. You have a Woodgrove team with a freshman quarterback that lit it up on the state level with numbers. Up here in Northern Virginia. I mean, you got JF down there, that right down in Lynchburg, that was right into the mix.
You always got Louisa.
You always got
like Class 4
Richmond. Richmond runs Class 4. Like how in Division 6 you got a ton of Northern Virginia schools that are in there that kind of Richmond has that lock on them right now on Division 4. And then you can't count out Lafayette, man. Those dudes have been doing that thing for a while and it ain't stopping. That machine running downhill, it's gonna keep going and it will take a couple to get it rolling, buddy.
And you know who you didn't mention? The 2-time defending champ Phoebus. You didn't say Phoebus. I'm sure Coach Blunt's gonna try to rebuild.
Hey, what's funny about Phoebus is they're in like Madison's boat where they took a couple losses, but that experience got them right back in the game. They just happened to have to play. You know what I'm saying? They had to play a tough team early in the playoffs. That's just how it shook out. But yeah, absolutely. What about them?
And Matt, if I'm not mistaken, Phoebus's quarterback will be a senior, right?
Yeah, Maurikas Banks, who through that
he was
game
a freshman, won the state championship.
He's an Old Dominion commit. Oh, by the way, their rival, who they beat, Marcus Chapman in the Hampton Crabbers, We always have Hampton in the conversation too. Class 4 is the most fascinating going into next year to me. I think you start with Varina at the top. But as Danny can tell you about too, they got to replace about 19, 20 seniors that matter. Guys like Bull Richardson, Damari Carter, a couple of future UVA Cavaliers. Now, they do have back a guy, I know he got hurt yesterday, and he was really efficient. I want to say 9 of 10, had about as many passing yards as rushing yards. Caleb Weiss at quarterback and defensive back. And I think, and we'll probably chronicle this, and Danny will do a great job with it, he's going to be one of the more decorated players as he ends his career at Varina High School, since he got in as a freshman in that first big game against Highland Springs. So as he goes, they will go. And you start with Varina. But even in their region, which you touched on, Coach Davis, Huguenot, they bring back Lewis. They bring back Coach Scott's son at quarterback. They have they're now, Varina becomes the hunted. Everybody was hunting Phoebus. Now Varina becomes the hunted. How do they handle that difference of being the team with the target on its back, which Maury's had and Oscar Smith's had? It'll be a fascinating watch. There are a lot of worthy challengers, but you have to start with the champs who earned it and showed their dominance.
Yeah. And Matt, we'll go ahead on with Maury for next year for Class 5. Will they four-peat?
They have the fewest seniors of the 6 teams we talked about. I think we mentioned Strasburg's got about 18. I'm sorry, Rappahannock has about 18. Strasburg 17. Lake Taylor 13. Varina 19 or 20. Oscar Smith has 30 seniors to replace, but they have just so many kids there in depth, which is incredible. And by the way, on them, I didn't mention this earlier. We talked about the passing of the torch moment with Lauren Johnson, Jeree McCain. I felt like in that post-game presser, you were there, Rusty. It felt like Coach Chris Scott, who's now won 40s things at Oscar Smith, won at Ocean Lakes, with Giovanni Simmons as decoordinator. It felt like with all that Coach Scott has professionally and personally, I mean, he's probably going to be involved still, but it felt like he's almost passing the torch on to Coach Simmons, saying, all right, I've groomed you guys here. You know how to run this thing. I just be the overseer of this. That's kind of how it felt to me watching everything yesterday. But anyhow, on Maury, only 12 seniors. And they bring back the quarterback in Tomo Everett. And they bring back the running back in Tayshawn Branch. And they'll have great receivers. You never know who might walk through the door there. Now, there could be a couple of coaches on that staff that depart, but as long as Jeree McCain is the big whistle there, and I know there could be college aspirations for him down the road. It could be sooner than later. We shall see. They're going to be right there. You know, we talked about it on the broadcast, Andy Hayes and I, what they do offensively and even some of the eye candy things. It's so reminiscent of like these Big 12 schools, like the Baylors and these up-tempo teams. And it's hard for opponents to get a grasp on it. I think they're going to be the favorite for sure. But Highland Springs isn't going anywhere. They've been there. Stonebridge isn't going anywhere.
Stonebridge, I was giving Stonebridge. What will Green Run ever put it together?
Well, and that's, I can't tell you. So, you know, this, we all enjoy the great food they provide us at the hospitality rooms there in Lynchburg at Liberty and in Harrisonburg at JMU. But I had 2 or 3 of the media TV people come to me. When is the Beach District going to let Green Run play outside the district? And I said, I don't know. Talk to the Beach District administrators. I don't make the schedule for these teams. I said, but if you gave me 2 weeks, I can solve everybody's schedules in the whole state. Let the teams that are perennially 5-5 or below play teams that are 5-5 and below, whether in their district or not. It'll help them try to make the playoffs, and it will help the Green Runs. Let them play Phoebus. Let them play teams. But people feel like if you do that, you're catering to Green Run. No, you're not. Because if you let First Colonial and Princess Anne, they'll play, you know, the Franklins and the Surreys and the Northamptons and the Gloucesters of the world. It might help them get a couple of wins and some confidence to make the playoffs. This can all be solved if you give us 2 weeks to fix everybody's schedules. And this is across the board, not just a Beach District thing or a 757 thing or any area code thing. But they're going to have athletes and be right there in the conversation for sure. I'm curious to see what Riverbend does, having made that big splash this past year in the 5-4-0. So there are going to be some teams that can make a run here, but the way Maury's operating as a machine, they're best built to go four-peat it. And this was kind of the year to, you know, go get them, if you will. And they didn't get them. Yeah.
Coach Abrams, you coach Class 6. What are your thoughts on Class 6? Is Mountain View going to come back? Because you all were down a little bit, but what about this North Stafford team with some experience?
I think so. North Stafford, they're going to graduate a good amount of talent. They're going to lose the quarterback. They're going to lose quite a few of their weapons. Now, Kanah Sullivan, depending on how his health comes into next season, he is a junior, so he'll be back. That's the most talented part of their team, but they're losing a lot of pieces. I think next year for Class 6 in this area will be a big time. It's a big clout. A lot of things. There's a lot of time between now and the beginning of the season. Even some of the other teams in the area, like Colonial Forge, their starting quarterback is graduating. They have a lot of athletes that are graduating. Now they also still have Darion Majid, who's one of their talented receivers. He's only a sophomore. He'll be back, but Tayshawn Jones will be graduating. I think some interesting teams that are in this region are teams like Patriot, who had their freshman quarterback. He'll be obviously there for a little bit. Even teams that didn't make the playoffs, like Brook Point, who was right on the outside of the playoffs, they had a freshman quarterback this year that they started really from game 2 on. So again, I think next year in Class 6, especially our region, is a year where it's a lot of time from today till August. And it's about those teams, and I'll say this later, it's about those teams that put the work in between now and then if they want to try to get on the stage where North Stafford was.
Coach Davis, you know Fairfax teams. Is anybody in Fairfax? Because folks, I'm not even going to get into the area code thing, 804-757, but Fairfax has won. Fairfax, Northern Virginia has won. Prince William County, Freedom High School won 2 in a row. Westfield won a bunch of state championships. People seem to forget South County beat Oscar Smith. But Coach Davis, tell us, in the Northern Virginia area, especially Fairfax, Class 6, is there something we should be looking for next year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more the regular scheduled programs from the teams that you've used to being seen and on that level, in the state level, teams from the Concord district. South Lakes has found their way into the mix, and they're doing it in basketball. That they found their way into the mix. A team like Washington and Liberty that came out of obscurity. I won't say nowhere. But what's happening is in Northern Virginia as a whole, and I'll touch back on it again, is the transferring is not as prevalent. Is not as we came under scrutiny because of the Hayfield thing.
Right.
Now you got to kind of work with your people. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so it has allowed courses to be more resourceful and kids to come together. But that you're seeing that now on this play out on the state level where there isn't a lot of movement. There was a swing of the pendulum where there ain't been much movement. And so you're kind of working with what you have, and it brings about parity and really good games for Northern Virginia.
Yeah, I agree. I enjoy that parity. Yeah. So look, let's go ahead now. Matt, can you give us unless you're trying to save it for one of your publications, your top teams in the state
for next season?
For this year, how would you close out this year, and who do you think are your top teams? I'll say, I don't want to say top 6. I'll say top because we got the different classes, but the top 10, because there could be teams that lost in the second round, but you think, because of the matchup, like a Louisa.
It's a great question. Yeah, I think you have to start 1, 2, 3, then there's a gap. However you want to order them, of Oscar, Smith, Maury, and Varina. You have to start that way. Now, if you go off the pure dominance of the championship games, your one should be and has to be either Oscar Smith or Varina. If you go off the pure body of the work, your one has to be and should be Maury. They have the best body of work. So to me, in order to answer that question, it depends on what are you wanting or what is your criteria. So, and I know that's a cop-out answer for people, but it's really the honest to God truth. And that's, again, taking nothing away from the body of work of Smith or Varina. They were the most dominant teams on championship Saturday. You can go 1A, 1B. But the best body of work is Maury's. I certainly think Lake Taylor, their story, and again, their only 2 losses were to Maury, who they were 14-all with in the third quarter, and to Hampton in a 40-34 game early in the season. And Hampton had an 8-2 regular season and number 1 seed in their region. But even beyond that, teams that didn't win a championship, despite the losses, and it kind of closes on the Class 6 thing we talked about, there seems to be a gap with Smith and everybody else. The storyline or the theme to me is Colonial Forge was knocking on that door for years and years and years against Oscar Smith. They were coming up just so close and banging their head. Bill Brown, legendary coach, his son John Brown, they've been right there. Madison, Justin Counts. I said it last week on the show, and I'll say it to you guys again. I think he did as good a job as anybody in the state. Brings back Will Smoot as their top playmaker. But they're banging on their head every year against Oscar Smith. Can somebody take them down? But I would say, just if I would do a top 10 for those top 3, I think Lake Taylor's not at that level of the 6, 5s, and 4s, but off of respecting what they did, they have to be somewhere in that probably 6 through 10 range. You might throw up somebody in that 4, 5, 6 range after the top 3 of your Stonebridges, your Madisons, your Highland Springses that were right there. I think one team we didn't touch on that's coming back next year, and Coach Davis knows this, is West Springfield's got back Booby Wickham, Dylan Wickham at running back, and Javon Austin at wide receiver. So they're a team that could take a quantum leap forward, and they were one of the more surprising teams to me that was not on my radar to start the year. So it's tough when you have the 6 classifications to take teams at 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
And some of those teams are more dominant now, but I think the parity is shown at those levels, which we're seeing in these championship games that are a lot closer, more competitive. And then you see the parity of when our 4, 5, and 6s, our power programs, the Smiths, the Maurys, the Varinas, the Highland Springses, the Stonebridges of the world, they go test themselves in out-of-state games. That's where they kind of get their measuring stick. So that's kind of where we are with Virginia high school football. Because someone came up to me and said, "Where are we? What's up with this? We have these lopsided scores, then we have it's kind of a 2 different shifting landscapes, if that makes sense."
Yeah, absolutely. It does. I think it's worthy of noting that a team like a Kettle Run had 1 regular season loss. They overcame the Liberty Christian defeats from the past to even make it to the state championship. I think the fact that this is the greatest Loudoun County high school football team in the history of that school's program is worthy of being noted, and it's an extreme accomplishment. To me, that may not necessarily mean you have to take them out of a potential top 10, top 15. It's a lot of teams. You don't want to say, "Hey, Glenvar, you're not a top 10 teams in the state." They lost 1 game, and so if I take this time to just point out there's a lot of great teams. We're not going to do an official top 10, top 20, but a lot of teams are deserving. I'll even go back, like I said, to the Richmond region, a Louisa, a Dinwiddie. Some of those teams are worthy of being in the top 10, top 12. And I compare it to, the whole college football fiasco that just went down with Notre Dame not getting in, and then Alabama getting in. So, you play your schedules, you have your different metrics that people are using. So overall, we had a great weekend of football. I've enjoyed this season. It's gone by way too fast, but another one season in the book. So I want to thank you all. You've added so much to my first season of The Last Word. I really, really appreciate it. So we're going to go ahead now, give everybody an opportunity to just give their last word on this high school football season. We'll start with you, Danny.
Oh gosh. I said it once, I'll say it again. You just touched on it. It goes quick. And, there's going to be a winner. There's going to be a loser. Just win with, as Jeremiah talked about it to begin with, win with humility and lose with pride.
Yep. Coach Abrams.
Just a little bit of like Danny said, not only does the season go by quick, for all the players out there, your high school experience can, overall in the grand scheme of things, go by pretty quick. So, just this is the off season for really every team now. So when those, just sending a message to all the kids out there, a turnaround can happen putting in the work. And some of the stories I think of is Lake Taylor, they're state champions after a 3-7 season last year. I'm going to work tomorrow. We're on a 2-hour delay, thankfully. Going to work tomorrow at North Stafford. 2 years ago, they were 0-10. The year before that, 1-9. But I know for a fact that those guys put in the work, and I know that it wasn't the result that they wanted, but they saw themselves at the state championship. So my message is really just to all those teams, especially the teams that didn't have that year that they wanted, like my guys, just put in that work coming up and see those results change.
Matt.
Yeah, to piggyback on what Coach Abrams and Danny said, I mean, it was a fun year. And it's about, to me, stories and memories. With so many stories that we're going to certainly remember from this season. And for all the athletes out there, be sure you thank your coaches, your family, those that help put you in the position to do what you get to do. And we celebrate you all as student athletes. And certainly, this is never an easy time when the season ends, because there's sometimes that empty feeling for kids when the year's over. But also be thankful, because you get to play a game that you love. And it's really more than a 4-month sport, as you guys know. You have the off-season grind, and it's about relationships too, at the end of the day, with your teammates, with your brothers, those that you go to battle with. So those relationships go into it as well. So it's a fun year, and I'm looking forward to already 2026. It's almost like what Joe Gibbs said. As soon as he remember he told this to the NFL Network people, he got in, won the Super Bowl, and someone pulled in the car. Hey, I'm going to do it again next year, right? It's like, hold on, it's just ended. So a lot of these teams that already won championships are already saying about, can you 4-peat? Can you 3-peat? Can you repeat? Let them exhale, enjoy the moment, get their rings, celebrate the holidays, and then go back to it after a couple of weeks, because you don't want to overwork yourself too, because we have seen that happen and it have its negative effects. So enjoy the holidays. This is always a lot of fun, and I appreciate you guys having me involved.
Yeah, Coach Davis.
Yeah, I'd like to take this time to say thank you to Jeremiah Davis Jr. He and his teammates afforded me an opportunity to do something that not every high school coach gets to do, and it's my first time coaching in a state championship game. As a high school coach, that's the epitome of it. That's it, to get to a state championship game. He'd love to win it, but just even to be a part of that, I'm thankful to him. He's a 4-sport athlete. He did 4 sports in high school as he wraps up his career, and he's still going. He's going to play basketball, does track. He wrestled his freshman year. He's a 4.01 student. He just does it the right way. And I've told him, and I told him when I had him on the show, that he's better than me. And the people say that the only man that wants you to be better than them truly is your dad. And he's accomplished that. He's better than I am. He's more accomplished than I am. And he's not done. But I'd be remiss if I didn't tell him thank you for this. I saw a post from a parent or a mom, a wife from the Varina side yesterday, and it was celebrating her husband who's on that staff. And that's awesome. You know what I mean? Like, you think about like how much it meant to his wife, you know what I mean? And his kids, and so as we go through this, and I know I talk about it every week, but how great is it that this game of football provides so much joy and inspiration to not only the coaches and the players, but all of those people around it. So we can't wait to get back to it next year.
Yeah, thank you all for your last word. My last word is basically going to be, look, as we close out another great football season, I just want to take a moment to reflect on what the high school football experience truly means. It's not just for the players on the field. It's for the families. It's kind of like what Jeremiah was saying. It's the families. It's the community that rallies behind these players. It was just tremendous to see Maury's fans ring the cowbells and scream and just be proud. Because football is more than a game. It's a shared experience. It's what brings these teachers. You might have a teacher you hate, but if you're in the stands with that teacher and you all are cheering as a student or as a parent, you'll turn around and give them a hug. It's when the neighbors and the alumni, and week after week, depending on, just wearing a shirt that might say, this says Old Dominion. I might get a comment up here about, but if I'm wearing a shirt that says Colgan or something, somebody may have a comment about that. And we just look forward to that fellowship on a Friday night. It's, and the lessons that we learn in football go well beyond touchdowns and tackles. We're learning about discipline. We're learning about, I know for back in the day, we had two-a-days and we were learning about early morning practice, resilience, getting up after somebody hits you and getting up in that heat, but you also learned about humility. And you learn, and I hope some people learn humility even in their victories this past weekend. There were lessons that will hopefully take these young men and women into adulthood, shaping them into leaders, teammates, citizens, and values that will help them in work and in perseverance. In my career, I've been working in the federal government for 30-some years, and some of the leaders I've seen in positions, they were there because they were good at what they could do. So if I just did budget my whole life, accounting, and I just was the best at budget and accounting, I may move into a managed position, but it doesn't mean I'm able to manage or lead people. It just may mean I'm the best at budgeting. But what I feel like is my best strength is, I tell people all the time, I'm not going to be your best budget analyst. I don't know all the rules or laws, or I'm not even good with numbers. but I know about leadership, I know about management, and I know about being a team player. Sometimes I have to be a team leader, but sometimes I have to be the best member of the team. And those are lessons I got out of playing football. And so, again, as we close out, as media members, as parents, as coaches or former coaches, as mentors and supporters, we witnessed the growth of young people this year. And they poured their hearts into this game, whether they made it to the state championship and won, or lost, or didn't even make the playoffs. This game is much bigger than just winning the state championship. So the true victory lies to me in the character that's being built and the memories that are all being shared. So let's celebrate not just the wins and losses, but the journey. Let's honor the dedication of the players, the guidance of the coaches, the support of the community. And because of in the end, the value of high school football is not measured by the scoreboard, it's measured by the pride we feel, the lessons learned, and the unity and the way we're able to bond. That is my last word on Virginia high school football. We are out.
Hey. That last word we don't play. DMV heat coming straight your way. No visit to the 757. We ride. Rusty Byrd at the bullpen live.